Surgical robot. And we actually ultimately want this robot to do essentially the entire surgery. So in everything from incision, removing the skull, inserting the electrodes, placing the device, and then closing things up and having you ready to leave. So we want to have a fully automated system. And to be clear, this robot does actually work. We've used it for all of the implantations. So this shows you at sort of close-up view, which I think is actually not too gruesome, of the electrodes being inserted in the brain. And if you look closely, you'll see that it's a little counterintuitive that if the electrodes are inserted very carefully, that there's no bleeding. And so if you have very tiny electrodes, and if they're inserted very carefully, so that the robot actually images the brain and makes sure to avoid any veins or arteries, so that the electrodes can be inserted with no noticeable damage. So you will have no noticeable neural damage in inserting the link. Yeah, like you sort of think like if you stab something with a wire, surely it will bleed, but actually at a really small scale, it does not.
Is that everything will be integrated into an ecosystem driven by big data.
This is Pager. He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago. If you look carefully, you can see that the fur on his head hasn't quite fully grown back yet. He's learned to interact with a computer for a tasty banana smoothie delivered through a straw. As he's playing this game, we are wirelessly streaming, in real time, the firing rates from thousands of neurons to a computer. Using these data, we calibrate the decoder by mathematically modeling the relationship between different joystick movements they produce. After only a few minutes of calibration, we can use the output from the decoder to move the cursor instead of the joystick. Pager still moves the joystick out of habit, but as you can see, it's unplugged. He's controlling the cursor entirely with decoded neural activity. One of the things the Neuralinks allow Pager to do is to play his favourite video game, Pong. To control his paddle on the right side of the screen, Pager simply thinks about moving his hand up or down.
Check, knowledge, yo, man and machine, reproduction, the Adam and Eve, when demons hunger for apples to eat, you speak in tongues over Babel when priests deceiving young when we succumb, watch the cities flood and damage debris, wrath of the beast, try to run with shackles on feet, you kinda stuck, the time has come, I think you have to agree, if you don't you'll be the ghost in which your attical squeaks, illegal nodes, evil souls now attack for the greed, it happened to me, probably even happened to you, capital G, OD on crack in the tube, grasping the root, the truth is all over in forums posted as we approach in the order seclorum, no escaping, see scars with crossbones praising, Prince of Darkness deep in hidden forest occasion, living cautious everywhere, trouble will prevail, it's a fact, time's ending fast now. Buckle your seatbelt, starvation. Unheard of in far places, more murder. 80% of my turf is Caucasian, burgers over Muslims, all races accustomed to religion. Trapped in the same system that bombs nations, fishes for Christians, bit the hook. Scale symbolizes reptilian brotherhood. Understood the secrecy, funded Bush exposed in September. The same hands controlling our lives, controlling.
Okay, so we talked about this last week, and now we're going to do a deep dive with Davo. Dubai is making it rain in a sweltering desert by zapping clouds with electricity using drones.
Fascinating, isn't it?
So much to ask, but let's take it, and then we'll do a few questions.
Before we talk about what's happening in Dubai, let's talk about cloud seeding in general, because a lot of people, I don't think, understand what cloud seeding is. And this has been going on for decades, by the way. This is not something that's brand new. But traditionally, what cloud seeding is, it involves using aircraft or drones or even some cannons to push silver iodide up high into the clouds. Why silver iodide? Because what that has the same crystallized structure as ice. So once it gets up into the clouds, it starts to accumulate. Ice on it and these large raindrops, which helps, especially in a cloud mass that's not really going to rain. It helps to bring rain and especially snow down.
So it works.
It does work marginally, but the problem with silver iodide through the years has been this, is that they feel it could be harmful to aquatic life. Okay, so over in Dubai, which is what you're seeing here, they took it a different step, and what they basically did, they had a fleet of drones that flew up into cloud cover, and they used electrical charges to force water droplets to combine into larger ones.
So not silver, not cloud seeding as we know.
No, they're not using the traditional silver iodide, which takes out the environmental aspect of that, okay? So they're using just electricity to create larger raindrops. Why larger raindrops? Because in Dubai, they only average about 4 inches of rain per year, as most of the rain that falls out of the clouds evaporates. Because it's so hot, it's so dry, and the water molecules are so tiny. So they're trying to stimulate by using electricity these droplets to be larger. Hence, they can make it to the ground. Now, I will tell you that the jury is still kind of...
And the first question is, Dr. Shub, you developed a terminology called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which became a global norm for various industrial changes. And you even chose this term as the main theme for 2016 World Economic Forum. So now, under current pandemic situation, what impact did COVID-19 have on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and how should countries or companies should respond to it?
That's an excellent question. As a reminder, my notion and my book of the Fourth Industrial Revolution is that the innovations we are seeing today in terms of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, advanced robotics, and many others, together constitute a new phase in human development, on par or even exceeding previous industrial revolutions in scale and impact. COVID-19, if anything, has accelerated this ongoing industrial revolution. If COVID had happened even 10 years ago, we could not have imagined moving entire companies, schools, and government offices so fast online. Today, that is a reality. The Fourth Industrial Revolution has become a reality, not just for the pioneers, but for a broad range of people and workers. We are also seeing macroeconomic consequences, changes. Big tech companies such as Apple, Samsung, Alphabet, Amazon, or Facebook already are among the largest global companies, but the last months have further cemented their leading positions in the market, while others have started to lag further behind. That will prove to be not only the case now, but will be a permanent consequence of COVID-19. But these past few months have also shown that the fourth industrial revolution will not be beneficial to all unless we make conscious choices and investments to ensure that this is the case. Disadvantaged school students, unskilled workers, and non-digitized companies and governments will feel the crisis much more than others. Moreover, both corporate and income inequality have worsened during the last months. So when we build the post-COVID world, when we do the Great Reset, one of the most important places to start will be to ensure that the fruits of the fourth industrial revolutions are really shared by all. It starts with equitable investments, particularly in education and reskilling. And it also implies we come up with a new framework to regulate data ownership, intellectual property and competition in the fourth industrial revolution. This requires public-private cooperation. So, to the participants of this World Knowledge Forum, my message is this. It is very important to embrace the fourth industrial revolution and its technology, as it will determine our future prosperity, like nothing else.
Thank you, Dr. Schwab. I absolutely agree on the fact that the current COVID-19 truly enhanced and accelerated the era of fourth industrial revolution. And this fact naturally leads into my next question, which is, what type of leadership is required for international corporations to overcome global challenges such as COVID-19, the US-China conflicts, and so on?
In the short term, we are likely to see an acceleration of economic deglobalization, a trend which is apparent. Less goods will be produced and traded globally. COVID-19 has caused a disruption, as we all know, in global supply chains. Companies will try and source more products from neighboring or nearby countries to ensure a greater supply chain resilience in case of future disruptions. And indirectly, as you mentioned, we are also seeing a negative impact of COVID-19 on global political and economic relations. COVID-19 has not been good for US-China relations, leading to a worsening of what we call the new Cold War. This will have long-term consequences on global economic cooperation, since companies will very often now emphasize resilience over costs. With China having become in the past the workshop of the world, this reshoring which will happen over the next years will lead to major disruptions, particularly affecting Korea. For Korea, the combination of the short-term and long-term trend means it will be more important than before to invest in relations, to invest in facilities in all parts of the world, including other parts of the emerging Asia, Europe, and the Americas. No company or country can rely on production only in one part of the world. We must avoid also that this new Cold War escalates. We have too many shared interests to allow the global system to disintegrate. Two other aspects of globalization, environmental and digital globalization, are in fact on the rise. And the COVID crisis has shown that when it concerns public health, we are globally connected as well. On all these fronts, collaboration is crucial, and I'm thinking particularly of vaccines, which we urgently need so well and distributed on a global level. Physically, we still can close borders, but virtually, we continue to see ideas, intellectual property, digital goods and services, cyber viruses, unfortunately, and so are many other things spread everywhere. The fact that I'm speaking to you now from Geneva, I think is a perfect example. One of the consequences of COVID was that we all became more defensive and therefore more egoistic and more nationalistic. But in the end, we share a common fate as a planet and as people who live on it. The right response is to collaborate and to coordinate internationally, so we can address the global challenges posed by climate change and COVID-19 and also continue to use trade.
Tim Draper is one of Silicon Valley's most famous venture capitalists. He was an early investor in companies such as Skype, the Chinese search engine Baidu, and electric car builders Tesla. With an estimated capital of $1 billion, he is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to which startups are to be given a chance.
What kind of companies, as a venture capitalist, do you invest in?
I look for industries that are getting very fat and lazy and bureaucratic, and I'm looking for startups that are approaching those industries where people are not getting, customers are not getting the kind of service and they're paying too high a price for the service. And so today, those industries are banking, education, medicine, and government, okay? In finance, there are great technologies now. There's Bitcoin, there are smart contracts, there's an ecosystem being built around Bitcoin.
So Wall Street must be afraid of you.
I believe that Wall Street is fighting this tooth and nail, trying to make sure that Bitcoin doesn't happen, but it's too late. The genie's out of the bottle, things are going great, and people will use Bitcoin for many, many different things. And then in education, I think there's some amazing education opportunities. The way education is done is going to be completely transformed over the next 5 or 10 years. And we're leading the charge there at Draper University of Heroes.
When West Coast companies go to New York or Washington or to Europe,
Meet George Jetson. His boy Al Wright.
Well, we thought flying cars were kind of just around the corner, and how long have we been waiting for that?
Well, CBS News correspondent John Blackstone is here to tell us the future is now. Almost.
Almost.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to do a story for CBS Sunday Morning to see how people who don't even have a pilot's license may soon be able to take off in that elusive machine, the flying car. Many people have imagined pulling a flying car out of their garage. Marcus Lang is actually doing it. And he wants others to do it too. His company, Opener, plans to start selling the aircraft called Blackfly within the next few weeks.
I believe that vehicles like this and other vehicles like this are going to revolutionize transportation going forward. This is just the very beginning.
Blackfly's carbon fiber body hides sophisticated electronics.
And if you look back in here, you'll be able to see that there's 3 flight computers.
But its real secret is in its small but powerful electric motors. You showed us how powerful this was in your lab.
I believe you were blown away, literally.
That was 3 years ago, when after a decade of keeping his project secret, Lang gave us a tour of his Silicon Valley factory. Back then, however, we couldn't actually see it fly. But this past week, Lang took us to his California test site. Lang prefers to call it a personal aerial vehicle. The FAA classifies it as an ultralight aircraft with limitations.
This aircraft would like to fly a lot faster than the maximum speed we're allowed to operate at, which is 62 miles an hour.
It can't fly over populated areas, and its range is only about 25 miles. But ultralights do come with one big advantage. You don't have to be a certified pilot.
John, we're going to be putting you in this aircraft.
To prove that just about anyone can fly it, Lang was willing to put a reporter with no experience as a pilot in Blackfly's single seat.
They're fun to fly. You'll see.
To prepare, I had to practice on a virtual reality simulator, which in the beginning had some challenges.
See those trees there? Better be careful.
Ah! Woo! But since Blackfly can pretty much fly itself, I was ready. Fun, but certainly out of my price range when it goes on sale later this month. While Lang won't yet reveal the cost, the first buyers are likely to be those with at least a couple of $100,000 to spare.